1. I'm currently on holiday in Malta, and it started when my wife and kids went up to the hotel room from the pool before me. I called the lift from the 3rd floor. Our room is on the 5th. When it arrived, 2 people got out as I walked in, and they looked confused. Wondering if they had got off at the wrong floor, I looked at the lift buttons and saw 0 was lit up. I laughed inside a bit when I saw them turn back to the lift before it closed. In fairness, they had time to react and stop the doors closing, but they didn't. If they made it more obvious, I'd have pressed the button to keep the doors open. So, cue the karma. I got out of the lift when it stopped and walked down the corridor to my room, still thinking about the silly people getting off on the wrong floor. As I'd just come from the pool, I was only wearing swimming shorts, a towel wrapped around my bottom half, and not my glasses, spectacles. When I got to my room, I knew my wife would have left it unlocked, so I flung open the door and shouted, "Only me!" as the character from Harry Enfield and Chums. I looked over and saw my wife sat on the bed over the other side of the room, wearing a towel wrapped around her. She didn't respond, which I thought was strange, and the kids weren't there. Must be in the bathroom, I thought. I turned back around and locked the door. I turned back to my wife again, who still didn't say a word. I stared back for a couple of seconds before realizing it wasn't my wife at all. I'd gotten off at the wrong floor and walked into the wrong room, proudly announcing myself. After an awkward, slightly blurry stare, I said, "I'm in the wrong room, aren't I?" I'm not sure if the girl responded, but I turned around for a quick escape, before realizing I'd locked the door. I scrabbled about with it till I could make my hands work properly, and bolted out mumbling something about how embarrassing it was. I'd gone into room 431 instead of 531. I bolted up the stairs. I didn't want to hang around for the lift, and told my wife straight away, purely because I knew it was genuinely quite funny, even if I didn't want to believe it. Now I keep getting obligatory "only me" announced at me at every opportunity. I still have to sit in the dining room twice a day with the mystery girl, but I don't know who she is because I couldn't see her properly. One girl did keep looking at me. She fitted the profile. Hopefully she saw I was wearing glasses and put 2 and 2 together. 2. So backstory is that I work at a fun park in Maine, which has all the run-of-the-mill fun park activities, go-karts, mini-golf, water slides, etc. My primary job at the fun park is to work the go-karts. I check people's tickets and watch over the races to make sure everyone is following the rules and being safe. For some reason, adults love to try and slide their kids past our height requirement regulations, hoping that we won't notice. Most of the time, they feel their kid is somehow entitled to driving the vehicle. It has become an important rule to make sure that every kid who looks short has an appropriately aged adult to accompany them, if they don't meet the requirements. One of the things parents will do if their kid is too short is just ride passenger and let their child do all the work, while they sit and watch. Obviously we can't do this because if you aren't tall enough to drive in the first place, you can't just magically drive with someone sitting next to you. So the rules are very simple. If you're tall enough, you can drive. If you aren't tall enough, you ride passenger. Okay, so now to today's event. So it's become habit for me to tell parents who bring their kid on to make sure that they drive as they are the adult. I usually just mark off their ticket and say something like, "Since you're the adult, make sure you drive the cart." In this situation, I probably should have been paying more attention to who I was talking to. As I mark the mother's ticket, I look to her and just say, "Make sure you're the one who drives and not your kid." She took a moment and looked at me, then said, "Don't worry, I wasn't planning on letting him drive." Now at this point, I could have left it, but I decided to emphasize by saying, "Well, some parents think they can sneak their kid in and let them drive, so I just need to make sure and tell people that if their kid is too short, they have to drive them." She then just walks away to the carts. At this point, I hadn't really thought I'd done anything wrong. Now, I usually walk around the area and check to make sure people aren't having trouble with their seatbelts. I see this woman from before struggling to get her seatbelt on after putting her son in. I walk over and ask if she needs help. She says that it's a little tight, so I decide I'll loosen it for her. I loosen the strap to her left easily. Then I go to step into the cart to fix the strap on her right side, when I notice what I had done wrong. As I place my foot in the cart to get better leverage, I noticed that her son was missing both of his legs and had prosthetics. In my mind, I start to put the pieces together as to why she was reassuring me that her son wouldn't drive. In my mind, I try to make the instance less awkward by telling myself that it is totally possible to drive a cart with prosthetics as long as you had careful control of the wheel. That's when it got even worse. I looked to his hands to notice that the little boy only has one finger on each hand. I am now starting to become very anxious as I'm realizing that I've made a terrible mistake. This woman must think that I'm an asshole, telling her that her son can't drive? Like she didn't already know that. And the fact that I explained how people usually try to sneak their kid through must have sounded like an insult to her son, who clearly wasn't capable of driving. So I carefully backed myself out of the situation by walking away without saying anything else that would upset her. At the end of the race, I told her to have a great day, hoping that if I sounded nice, she would forgive me, but in hindsight, I definitely should have just apologized. In the end, my co-worker thought I really messed up, and felt bad for me as I was feeling like shit for the rest of the day. What I learned from this is that I need to pay more attention when I'm talking to people. 3. I used to be really into Greek life, so much so that when my roommate and I were picked to be the Brotherhood events chairs for the semester, we knew we had to go down in history as the best. After all, this was really my last active semester. Now, for those of you who are unaware as to what this job entails, previous chair holders would receive a modest budget, and then use it for things like alcohol and bowling night, movie night, drinking games night, mini golf night, etc. Not us, though. We were going to do something big. When the night finally came, we told everyone that they must bring 3 items from their kitchen, and to make sure that they had a safe ride home. Next, we provided copious amounts of alcohol for some fun warm-up drinking games. We let them drink for an hour, knowing that one tends to make more interesting decisions when intoxicated. After my roommate and I gathered the group, we got everyone riled up by yelling that the house was going to shit and all sorts of random logorrhea. We then asked them a simple question. "Who is the motherfucker?" we asked. Confused and drunk, they looked around until one idiot proclaimed he was. No, we all agreed, but the motherfucker is the toughest, the bravest, the king of kings, the best of the best. It went something like that, and oh boy did it work. Everyone wanted to be the motherfucker. Challenge 1. More disgusting Iron Chef. The night began with 7 teams of 2. Each team had to create the most colorful and imaginative food art on a plate using 5 random ingredients from the kitchen. Watching this, I have to say that some of these were really disgusting. There was a raw egg cracked on Fruit Loops, strawberry jelly, hot sauce, and lettuce. Peanut butter mixed with spaghetti sauce, oatmeal and ramen noodles, bananas, and, well, I think you get it. Standing behind their works, the 14 contestants awaited our winning pick. Instead, we told them to pass their plate to the right, and that the first 4 teams to eat everything in front of them would move on to the next round. It was a shit show, but we had our winners. 7 were to move on. 1 team member was throwing up too much to continue. Challenge 2. The Pepper Puzzle Challenge. Now this one I'm actually proud of coming up with, and to be honest, I did not think that many people would actually attempt it. The 7 left standing lined up, and we gave each one a habanero pepper, and a 100-piece puzzle from the movie Frozen. The rules were simple. First to eat the pepper whole and complete the puzzle wins. Oh yeah, and you can't have anything to drink until the puzzle is complete or you're out. Not a single one of them had ever eaten habanero before, and dove in without hesitation. I had thought, and never really believed, a single person would finish. Almost instantaneously, chaos erupted. Two quit immediately, running for water or anything that would bring them relief. Another was trying to make himself throw up. And the last had his shirt off and was panting, sweating, and heaving in the corner. But 3 people finished. Shocked, I looked at my roommate. We knew there had to be more, but didn't plan this far. And then I fucked up. Challenge 3. Improvisation. Channeling my fears of summer camp counseling, I summoned all of my creative abilities and announced that the final round would end like all great competitions, in a race. The third winner dropped out right away, leaving the final brawl to be between arguably one of the least fit guys in the house versus the most athletic. The final challenge went like this. Each was to drink 4 red Solo cups full of beer, flip them each, take off all their clothes, touch the stop signs at the end of the street, and the first one back would be crowned the motherfucker. It was absolutely hilarious, and when the athletic guy returned first, we cheered, celebrated, laughed, and passed out. Challenge 4, the sidewalk. The next morning I awoke to loud bangs and screaming. I looked at my watch and wondered who the hell wanted to talk to us at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. It was the neighbors, and they were pissed. Apparently some naked men were running down the street while vomiting last night, leaving a trail of destruction from our house all the way to the stop sign at the end of the street. Half awake, I walked outside in my underwear and surveyed the scene. It was not pretty. I told the neighbors I would take care of it, and spent the next 3 hours washing 100 yards of sidewalk. Well, congrats to Ori the motherfucker. I hope I gave you a college memory you'll never forget. 4. FYI, I'm male and I was 15 years old when this happened. My best friend was throwing a birthday party in town. She turned 15 that day and invited our closest friends. I prefer not using their real names, so let's just call them Grey, Dutch, and Cat, and use B-Day Girl for you-know-who. Today's birthday party was going to be slightly different, because B-Day Girl also invited a childhood friend from her elementary school. Let's call her Dragon, and the reason I call her like this is because she is overly obsessed with dragons. We all decided to meet up at our usual subway stop. I was the third one to arrive and met up with Dutch and Dragon first. Dragon is a fierce-sounding nickname, but this girl was anything but fierce. She was petite, short, especially compared to Dutch and I, who are both 6 feet in length, and wore big round glasses which made her resemble your stereotypical cartoon nerd. She didn't say much, and almost seemed intimidated by us for whatever reason. Not too long after my arrival, B-Day Girl, Cat, and Grey arrived, as well as B-Day Girl's parents. B-Day Girl has your typical strict Asian parents who have way too much influence on her life choices. And back during this time, they even joined her parties as well. We were pretty much used to it at this point, and since they paid for everything, we didn't care too much, really. It was also normal for us to first eat lunch at a Chinese restaurant in town, so we could give the presents there, and just focus on messing around in town later. We entered this restaurant, which was as crowded as China itself. Our table happened to be right in the middle of the restaurant. This was a round table with a lazy Susan on top of it. In case you don't know, these are rotating trays, which make it easy to pass around food. I sat down in between Grey and Dutch. Left beside Grey is Cat, and B-Day Girl is sitting on Cat's left. Dragon is sitting in between B-Day Girl and Dutch. Finally, B-Day Girl's parents are sharing a small table near ours, right behind B-Day Girl. It didn't take long for our food to arrive, and we were having a good time so far. We also had way too much fun playing with the Lazy Susan, since none of us had used one before, so this was a whole new experience. Dutch and I noticed that Kat had accidentally put her iced tea on top of the Lazy Susan instead of the table itself, and while she was distracted, Dutch slowly turned the tray and hid the iced tea near him. It took Kat about 10 minutes before she realized that Dutch stole her iced tea, and she obviously wanted it back. We all laughed, and instead of standing up and just handing over her drink, Dutch placed it back on the Lazy Susan and proceeded turning it slowly. This is where the fuck up happens. Without thinking about the possible consequences at that very moment, I stood up, yelled, "Hold on, I got this," at Dutch as I gave a powerful spin to the Lazy Susan. Everything went in slow motion at this point. All food just straight up flew off the Lazy Susan, and the plates made an incredible loud noise, which was hearable over the chatting of the other customers. All types of Chinese dishes ended up all over the table, the floor, and even on my friends. Kat's iced tea flew straight into Dutch's lap, and only one plate miraculously remained on the turntable. Literally every customer was staring at us, wondering what the fuck just went down. To make matters worse, Gray and Dutch were in tears from laughing hysterically, which drew even more attention. B-Day Girl's parents were silently judging us, and B-Day Girl just stared at me in disbelief. Definitely feeling more shocked than I was. Kat was just bummed her drink got spilt, and Dutch was about to piss himself. My feeling of embarrassment only grew stronger when watching the waitress clean up the plates from the floor. We left the restaurant shortly after. Dutch was still laughing at this point, and went into town to start the party. Unsurprisingly, B-Day Girl's parents never joined us to any restaurant from that day forward, and I've never seen or heard of Dragon again. I guess her fright of me and Dutch back at the subway stop was some kind of foreshadowing. 5. Part 1. Background. To set the scene, back in August 2011, I was moving back to my dorm at my university. The dorm area I lived in was up on a hill and surrounded by woods, so there were all kinds of common wildlife and insects outside. I lived on the ground floor and would commonly find some random bugs and insects creeping into my dorm room via the exit being left open, or just easy access for bugs to get in the building via a hole or floor cracks or something. Nothing anywhere near an infestation level, but just some random bugs on the windowsill or getting in through a small hole in the window or something. It was summer and very hot, and we had no air conditioning, so the window was left open frequently. While setting up my shower and bathroom supplies in my bathroom, located inside my single-person dorm room, I noticed something slowly crawl out from under the sink. My sink was like a floating sink attached to the wall, with the drain pipe fixture under it going into the wall as well, and nothing else below besides the floor. Towards the wall, as if it were walking on air. It was a fairly small-bodied spider with extremely long legs. I was a little creeped out, but extremely intrigued and interested by this spider, as I watched it sit on its web that it made to connect to the wall on the left side of the sink, to under the sink, where it presumably lived. If you didn't know, because I sure didn't, this spider species is Pholcus phalangioides, or long-bodied cellar spiders commonly called daddy longlegs. Urban legend says that these spiders were the most venomous spiders in the world, but harmless to humans as its fangs could not penetrate human skin. So cool. I thought it was amazing at the time, but recently learned that these urban legends are myth, as both its venom is not dangerous, and it can penetrate your skin and bite you if it wanted to. But they generally don't give a shit about humans, so you're good. By now I'm sure you can tell I'm not an arachnophobe by any means, and thought, well, he's pretty big, and I definitely don't want to fuck with him. Plus he likes dark, moist, celery places like under my sink, so he'll probably just stay there in his home he made for himself. Plus he will probably eat the fuckers who actually want to hurt me like mosquitoes and other bastard insects. so he's protecting me anyway. I guess I'll just keep him here and leave him be. I decided he'd be my pet spider, and in that moment I named him Boris, after Boris the Spider by The Who. I immediately walked 15 to 20 steps outside my dorm to the back exit, and opened the door and looked on the ground for a couple of minutes, and proceeded to grab a small insect that looked like a cricket, and brought it back into my dorm and dropped it into Boris's web as a peace offering. Boris went back under the sink at that point, but immediately after the cricket got caught in his web, he popped his head out and leapt forward on the web, one bounce closer to his food and victim, leaping forward with a 1-2 second pause between leaps, and started to wrap the cricket in a web and eating him. I recorded this on my iPad because it was pretty fucking cool. Thus, a friendship was born. Boris and I had a mutual relationship like this, where if an insect would enter the dorm and bothered me, many flies, moths, mosquitoes, I would smack it out of the air and drop it into his web. Otherwise, I trusted he could fend for himself. Part 2. TIFU. A couple months passed and everything was going fine in terms of this spider named Boris, who lived under my bathroom sink. One day I noticed another daddy longlegs and immediately did not recognize it as Boris, because the body of this one was way bigger relative to Boris's small body. Immediately I figured this new daddy longlegs spider was female, as female species of arachnids and insects tend to be larger than male counterparts. My first reaction was, "Oh, that's so cute, Boris has a girlfriend, I'm gonna name her Bora." And stupidly decided to just give Boris the verbal fist bump. That he's got a girlfriend spider and he's getting some action because, hey, at least one of us was. I didn't think much of it and went about my business, shit, shave, shower, etc. One day, maybe a week or two after seeing Bora, I sat on the toilet and was on my phone the usual. All of a sudden I felt a tickle on my foot. Didn't think anything of it and brushed my foot with the other. It happened again, but now in my leg. Again, didn't think anything of it. Maybe it was just a small breeze or something, and just mindlessly scratched my leg. Then again, a tickle on my foot. I looked down. If I could describe the scene to you, it was basically the scene straight out of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, when Harry and Ron are leaving the forest, and all of the spawn of Aragog started crawling out of everywhere, and chasing Harry and Ron. It may have been an exaggeration, but there were like at least 20 little tiny Borises running around my feet, and I freaked the fuck out. I was helpless, mid-poop, undies at my ankles with 20 fucking aggravated baby spiders running around my feet and my bathroom floor. I grabbed the can of air freshener next to my feet and started spraying everywhere, all over the floor, anywhere where I saw a baby spider. Literally one step away from lighting my bathroom on fire. They were everywhere. Every corner of my small bathroom floor, running around, tumbling about, trying to crawl up walls and falling. I'm not scared of spiders, but I definitely couldn't tell if my skin was crawling with fear, or if something was crawling on my skin. I managed to calm myself down enough to finish my dump, clean up, and start killing these baby skull spiders. With wet paper towels and air freshener at my disposal, I started spraying and killing and wiping the floor. After about an hour, I was pretty sure I got most of them, if not all. And then I tore down Boris's web and waited for that fat bitch Bora to come out, and killed her too. No more girlfriend, no more sexy time for you, Boris. Literally killed all the spiders except Boris because 1, I couldn't find him, and 2, I had a small emotional attachment to this dumb spider. Anyway, so after all this hard work, I had decided to take a shower since I've been crawling around my bathroom, killing, scrubbing, wiping, cleaning. The shower was pretty refreshing. I was trying to relax and forget about what had just happened. I started washing my hair, and I looked down and saw a wet, tangled clump of seemingly hair. I reached down to pick it off the shower floor, and only managed to get 2 strings of hair from the clump. So I reached back down and the hair moved away from me. So I grabbed it again, and pulled off all but 1 individual strands, and to my horror, realized that I had just ripped off 7 of Boris's legs. I just accidentally murdered my pet spider as a water flow sent him down the drain. I was very sad for the rest of my shower. Never again will I keep a pet spider. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Embarrassing Stories, episode 53. Thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, I hope everyone is going to have a nice weekend ahead of them. Do I have plans this Saturday? Well, there's a bunch of little tasks I need to take care of. Probably some email correspondence and the like, setting things up here and there for other things, and I'm sure there'll be a few little tasks to take care of in and around the house. So that's what my weekend will be spent doing, but I'm sure I'll find time to relax at some point during that. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.